Welcome back to Making Sense. The program is designed to offer an analysis of news. In this week's edition, we are going to talk about the implication of the ongoing censure debate. And the debate is taking place from Tuesday morning until Friday. And the vote will be cast on Saturday. And with Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha and 9 other cabinet ministers in the opposition crosshair. And this will be the second time the government is facing the second grilling after they stay in office for nearly 2 years. And what they are going to talk about in the censure debate will deal with the COVID-19 pandemic and social and economic impacts. But I think I'm afraid that the censure debate will become a tit for tat. Yes, I have got that kind of feeling because last week, Parang Pracharat Party list MP Phaiboon Nititawan, he asked the House to seek the court ruling on the legality of the opposition debate motion after they refused to revert some parts in reference to the monarchy. And he said that if the opposition can touch on the monarchy, he would protest, and he did this morning. And he warned that they could face the sort of the dissolution of the Thai Raksa Chat Party. You know, if you remember, Phaiboon is the person who filed a petition seeking the disbandment of the Thai Raksa Chat Party after the party nominated Princess Ubon Ratana as the prime ministerial candidate in 2019. So, and in addition, government chief Whip Virat Ratanasethi said that he will not tolerate any mention of the monarchy in the motion. So the beginning is
yeah, you could say that it has gotten off to a rather rocky start. This censure debate, which is the second censure debate to be held since the government took office, and it is it's really something that a lot of people are keeping a close watch on, because the censure debate is supposed to be where the government is kept in check, the performance of the government. So this is and the opposition gets the chance once every year to do that. So they're not going to waste that opportunity. And as I mentioned, a lot of the key issues that will be raised for grilling the government and the cabinet ministers, 10 cabinet ministers, will revolve mostly around issues concerning the the government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. And most recently, it touches on the vaccination program, the procurement of the vaccines. I think we've touched on that. We have mentioned that, and we discussed that quite widely in our previous episode. So today, it is the moment of truth for the opposition. It's going to be a litmus test also of how the government unity is going to hold or not, because this is, it has been quite an interesting turn of events when it was reported that one of the 10 targeted ministers, the education minister, Titsuwan, has been singled out as possibly the weakest link for all these 10 targeted ministers. And what happens is, there's some interesting questions. One is why, at the point of all these cabinet ministers are the subject of the censure debate, and two, what will happen? You mentioned the consequence or the implication of this censure debate, because they're not just going to be 4 days of debate and expect nothing out of it. There's going to be something that results, concrete result being delivered. So to me, to answer the first question, why not one of all ministers? Well, here is one or two ministers, right, in the cabinet who, with background of active involvement in the the PDRC, the People's Democratic Reform Committee protest movement, which led to the downfall of the Pheu Thai party-led government, previous government. So this, he and the GE minister,
Putipong
Punakan, right? They've been given the ministerial posts in the current cabinet. So Mr. Nattapon, it has been reported that the fact that the people in the ruling Palang Pracharat Party are not happy with him. Some of the key politicians in that party are not happy with him because he went along with his wife over Thaya, right? Because Miss Thaya had said earlier that she would run for Bangkok governor seat. So that upsets I think quite a few people in the ruling Palang Pracharat Party, because they too want to nominate their own people to run in the gubernatorial race, which is set to take place later in the year, right? So two people. Mr. Nattapon on one hand, and you've got a group of powerful politicians in the ruling party not wanting Ms. Thaya to be nominated as the party's candidate. So that is going to cause a lot of
undercurrent.
Yes, undercurrent has whipped up the undercurrent, and that undercurrent is really aiming at Mr. Nattapon, and Mr. Nattapon is facing this, particularly is in a bad situation. So he is, and he's also been accused of, running the education ministry in a rather ineffective way. And if you remember last year, particularly, he was, bombarded with criticism, and he was, met with the protesters, the young protesters, called
bad students,
right? And this group of students are aligned to the anti-government protester movement, right? The Ratsadon group. So they've been, for over 2 or 3 months, they've been visiting Mr. Nattapon regularly outside his ministry headquarters, the head office on Ratchadan Road, and we could see them, picketing almost every Friday. So that happened. And so that was really, something that goes down, doesn't really sit well with the way that his ministry is being run. And it raises quite a few questions about his achievements. Because these young students claim that he hasn't done very much to improve the curriculum. He has failed to deliver on his promise to reform the education sector. And I think the latest wrangling that has happened that you could see very recently is the online classes that have been conducted because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Some education experts have attacked this policy and the way that Mr. Nattapon has handled the issue. And they said that he hasn't done enough in a way of arranging or organizing the online class effectively. He hasn't really come out with a clear plan to deliver the kind of remote classroom arrangement, not in the way that would lead to people or the parents and the students being attending these classes effectively. So what happens when you could see starting from the lack of strong Wi-Fi connection, and some of the students don't even have the monitor, the computer monitor, and so the lack of or the shortage of the equipment was one thing. But the critics said that what really has enraged them is the fact that Mr. Nattapon hasn't really done enough to invent the kind of methodology of conducting the class, like the way they could perhaps arrange the homework to be done, and the kind of response that the interaction between the students and the teachers.
You are talking about internal challenges within the ruling Palang Pracharat Party, but in addition, there are also the sort of conflict or some rift among the coalition parties, because it is reported that there are small parties making up around 21 seats, and they will cast the no confidence vote if a targeted cabinet minister cannot sort of clarify accusation made by the opposition camp. So we have to wait and see whether the government will remain a united front.
Yes. This is one thing that I'm curious, because when you mention no confidence vote, you would immediately think about how many no confidence votes the targeted minister would receive, right? He is being monitored, his performance is being kept in check, and now he's got this scorecard. He or she has got this scorecard from the opposition in the form of, if he gets too many no confidence votes, then he's in trouble, right? Technically, we'd be expecting to see or to count how many no confidence votes the cabinet minister would get, but in
Thailand,
this particular case, we can't expect that, because we'll be watching the votes on the other side. The votes on the other side, meaning the confidence votes. How many confidence votes the cabinet ministers will receive, right? So, in other words, if he gets fewer, if one or two or three ministers get fewer confidence votes than the rest, then these people will be in trouble.
Yes, he will face a lot of criticisms.
So in other words, we're saying that it doesn't really depend on how well the opposition can deliver this censure debate, right? It's more the case of how united the government side, or the government, cabinet ministers, or people on the government side how united they will be, because that unity will be the saving grace of these targeted ministers. So, to me, it doesn't quite cut it. It doesn't, the censure debate, the whole idea of censure debate really doesn't come across as giving somebody the check that the kind of check on their performance, because it now depends on what the fellow cabinet ministers or the fellow government MPs think about their own people.
So is that the reason why critics are looking forward to the sort of the cabinet reshuffle after this, because the current government is going to enter the second year in office in July.
Yes.
So they are going to. Is it possible that those who get the lowest confidence score will be shunned to?
I don't think you need to wait until the middle of the year even, because I think if Mr. Nattapon, suppose Mr. Nattapon gets the lowest confidence votes, then it's going to provide certain people, possibly the ruling party, Palang Pracharat Party, the justification to try and unseat him. Right? That could be cited as the reason, because he's got. We're not really confident about his performance. We are not going to give him another chance at the ministerial post. He's not going to be continuing his job as minister. So we'll find somebody else to do the job. We'll find a replacement.
Yes, and this is the goal of the opposition camp as well, because chief opposition party Chief Opposition Whip Sutin Klangsan said opposition can expect Prime Minister to reshuffle cabinet, and if it's possible, the change of the government due to the crisis of faith.
Well, crisis of faith or not, I'm not too sure. But if the government goes ahead, the cabinet and decides that there should be a cabinet shake-up, that's going to be, to me, it's going to be a confirmation of the opposition's assertion that this, for example, Mr. Ratchapan has underperformed his duty. We had the privilege of pointing it out to the government and the people, and now the government hit up the queue, and now it replaced them. So that, you see, it's we who made that point clear, got that point across to the people. If it hadn't been for the opposition, Mr. Ratchapan might still be employed as the education minister. That could be the opposition's, justification or reason. Right? But so, to me, this it's a bit, it doesn't make much sense the way this censure system is being worked out, because because there is, one of the reasons I think there is a clear line there dividing the government and the opposition. It's not really based on merit, is it? It is based. I'm under the impression it is based on whose side you're on.
Factions.
Yes, factional, powers, the power struggle, the power, whatever you want to call it. The thing is, all eyes are now on the ruling opposition, the ruling party, the Palang Pracharat. And the Palang Pracharat, I think it's going to be, employing all sorts of tactics, right, to make this censure debate, to make people dismissive of it, and because the way to do it now is to distract people by saying, the constant, almost constant protesting in Parliament, on the floor, in the chamber. They would be, trying to get people to, on their side, the government, protesting the opposition, and
tit for tat.
This tactic is going to work out very badly for the people, because people will turn their attention off, switch off. It is a turn off. Because you can't sit through a session that long, because we're talking about, starting at 10, 12, and then ending at midnight, so
4 days,
like, 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours a day of debate, and it's going to drag on for 4 days. If you do not muster the kind of attention, you're not prepared to sit out this kind of lengthy debate, and at the end of the day still have the full attention. Well, if you get disruption like that, almost constant protesting from the government side, the chances are you're going to switch off your TV. You're not going to be watching. You're not going to be interested in watching anymore. So that, in a way, is stands in the way of the opposition delivering any kind of meaningful censure debate, or having people watching it.
But that will also give impetus to anti-government protester. Last week they came out for the first time this year to demand the abolition of the Lese Majesty law, and to demand the release of their 4 members who were denied bail after they were indicted on the Lese Majesty and other charges. And last week there is also the clash or the excessive use of violence by police. So this issue will be mentioned in the chamber, and it will give impetus to protesters to gather again this this weekend?
I think the incident and the clash on February 13th. Right?
Yes.
I think it hasn't been really established who was at fault, because the protesters would say that the police started violence, and the police saying a different thing. They said it is the protesters who fired threw bottles and bricks at them first. So we're not clear at this stage who started what and that clash. But you certainly make a very fascinating point about this, because they're going to organize a rally on Saturday?
Yes. On
Saturday, February 20, right? That is when. Because they time it, they coincide. It is going to coincide with the
censure debate. Yes.
The no confidence vote being cast on that particular
on Saturday.
Day. So it's two very landmark events that are happening at the same time. So I think there's a potential concern. There's a cause for concern here, because what happens in Parliament is going to be kept. Isn't going to be kept in Parliament. It's going to spill over into the open. And if the government survive, which I think it will survive this censure debate, then it's only going to create the kind of fuel being poured over the fire.
Yes.
Right. But there's also a lot of accusations being directed against the anti-government protesters. It will be interesting, I think, how many people will turn up, the size of the crowd, because in recent weeks, or even before the end of last year, we saw that the number of protesters may have shrunk a bit, and now after they've come back, the size hasn't grown as much as I think the organizers would hope to. So at this stage, when I think the February 13 clash has been an important turning point, because it showed that there is a potential a violence force being factored in this protest. So we'll see how it goes, but it presents quite a cause of concern.
And another interesting point is that if the opposition camp can deliver substantive evidence, I mean, it is possible that it will continue to give impetus, because protester can discuss issue in the chamber.
Yes.
And in addition, they will, according to Pheu Thai party, they will also, they say that they have some evidence pointing out to some cabinet minister having some irregularities, and they will file this issue with the NACC. Right.
I think that's another way of taking advantage of this opportunity to do the censure debate. If it is not going to be picked up, this issue, by the protesters, then, but of course protesters will be going at it, but the parliamentarians, the lawmakers on the opposition side would, I think, be motivated to file the petition against the government for alleged mishandling of national affairs, corruption, possible irregularities, and those petitions I think are going to be filed with the National Anti-Corruption Commission, NACC. I think that's the way that the law is designed for the parties, the political parties, to pursue this avenue to get the government to account for what allegedly has done that has caused the country to to run aground, to have this kind of mismanagement going on, so I think it is certainly going to be an avenue. This the way that the thing is, the NACC will, if it takes up, the agency takes up petitions by the opposition, it can spell doom, right, for the individual ministers. And if the key ministers, or any ministers for that matter, are indicted in the court of law by the NACC, then the Prime Minister, as the head of the cabinet, might have to take responsibility. So he will face a stiff demand that he accounts for actions or any alleged abuse of authority committed by his cabinet ministers. So everything comes back to the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister has to in a way he has to
take responsibility.
It is, and a position in a very unenviable position. So, but he really can't escape the responsibility if that happens. Certainly not. So we'll see how this event goes. It's going to be 4 days. 4 days. Today,
Tuesday.
This is Tuesday. So in the morning, it has Mr. Sutin Kang-Sang, opposition chief, he's quite a figure, a political figure to watch, because he's supposed to have the dynamite, so to speak, in his hand, which he can then use to sink the government. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how the opposition will deliver this, this important, event.